Hi, everybody. Dan Illman here. Very pleased to be talking with the great Andy Beyer concerning these three major races at Oaklawn Park on Saturday. Of course, the main event is the Kentucky Derby Prep. That's the Rebel. But we want to begin things off with race number 8. It kicks off a 50-cent pick 4. Let's throw up the field for the $350,000 Essex Handicap for some older horses. We have a field of 7 in here. This is a pretty evenly matched group. And Andy, I think the 7 Pioneer Spirit looks like the main speed. We'll take the field in post position order in a bit, but I do want to talk about the pace situation. Pioneer Spirit is probably at his best when he controls the pace, and he couldn't get that trip in the Razorback. Warrior's Charge was too fast for him.
Right. Well, I agree with you fully. I think that the pace is the issue in here. I mean, these on basic ability, these horses are really even. I mean, the two stakes for older horses that have been made stakes that have been run here to date. I mean, the 5th season on opening weekend, and then the Razorback. They both came down to photo finishes. This will come down to a photo finish too, and I agree with you that that pace will probably be the determining factor, though I'm not sure you have the right speed horse.
Oh, that's very interesting, because we'll throw up the Timeform US pace projector for this race. They believe that the 7 will get to the front in here. Pioneer Spirit. How do you see this pace playing out?
Well, to me, there are 5 horses in the field who have no speed. And they are numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And so, to me, this, in terms of pace, this race comes down to Pioneer Spirit versus Snapper Sinclair, and it's. I mean, admittedly, if you look at the at the running lines, Pioneer Spirit frequently goes to the front or is dueling for the lead. But I think Snapper Sinclair, under the circumstances today, will be right with him. I mean, if you look at the last race, the Razorback, and how it was run, a horse named Joe Iva was inside of Snapper Sinclair and Pioneer Spirit and pushed them both out at the first turn. And Pioneer Spirit was pushed into the 3 path, Snapper Sinclair into the 4 path. They were very close to each other. Then Pioneer Spirit, got to the rail. Snapper Sinclair was outside all the way. They finished a nose apart. I thought it was a pretty even race by the two of them. I thought Snapper Sinclair had the tougher trip. And you go back his next to last race in the 5 seasons, he was dueling for the lead. I think they have to go with him. So I give him the edge, but I think this race is between the 6 and the 7.
Well, one of the horses coming from the back of the pack is the number 1 Guest Suite, who won the slower division of the 5th season back on January the 25th. And just perusing this horse's lines, his last 3 victories have all come on wet tracks. He seems to excel on a wet surface. He's okay on fast going, but there are some class questions for him to address in here. You upgrade him on a wet track. I'm not sure if that's enough to get him over the hump, however.
Well, but you look back, though, at his races at Churchill Downs. He got a Beyer speed figure of 95 on a fast track, and then a 92 on a fast track. I think it might just be a happenstance that his wins came in the mud, because he's run just as well. If he had speed, I would consider him here. I can't really make much of an excuse for his showing in the Razorback, so I guess he's an elimination here.
Night Ops is the number 2, and he really excels at this distance, and he has done very, very good work at Oaklawn Park in the past. He's won 2 out of his last 3 starts, including this race, an optional claiming event on February the 9th, where he got a pace set up, and he came with a good solid run despite being wide most of the way after breaking from post 11. This was a nice solid race. The Beyer came back a little bit light for these kind of horses in 89. He's a likable, consistent horse that might be in just a bit tough.
Yeah, I thought his trip was it was fairly impressive last time. He was hung out 5 wide at the first turn, and then very wide again turning for home. There was Robertino Diodoro had a horse in there, Sky Promise, who's a huge closer, and Sky Promise came at him, and he held off that charge. So that was a real good effort. I just think you look at his overall record and his best races, he's just a notch below these horses. But you got to respect Brad Cox with just about anything he puts on the track.
And Sky Promise, the horse Night Ops beat last time out, will be running on Friday at Oaklawn in their feature race, the Temperance Hill. Let's move to the 3, Laughing Fox. This horse, perhaps an ill-advised run in the Travers to conclude his 3-year-old campaign. He was given plenty of time off. He was the beaten favorite in that Night Ops race. He didn't really break very well, but after that I was kind of disappointed, Andy, that he didn't do more running. I guess he can improve with that race under his girth, and he has done some good things at Oaklawn in the past.
This doesn't look like a typical Steve Asmussen training job. He has, he's so smart about where he places his horses, and he has certainly been, you'd have to say, a little overly ambitious with this one, but maybe he sees something in him that we don't. I mean, his last race was not good, but that was off a long layoff. That's not necessarily Asmussen's fort. And the horse was bumped hard at coming out of the gate and was dead last. I guess he can improve off that. But again, this comes down to a pace issue, and he's just too slow for me to consider in this field.
Bank at the number 4 finished ahead of 4 of these rivals in the Grade 3 Razorback Handicap, but he just received a lovely trip under Ricardo Santana, able to save ground on the backstretch, had a seam turning into the lane, and it looked like he was going to go by Warrior's Charge, and then he kind of turned into Bank it a little bit. You liked him that day. You were right about his performance in the 5th season where he ran really well. He just couldn't get it done in that spot. All 3 of his lifetime wins have come against New York breds, but this is a very consistent horse. You mentioned Asmussen knowing how to place them, and he's placed Bankit beautifully throughout his career.
Yeah, I thought that that he was the horse in the Razorback, and he almost was, but it looked like he was going to get past Warrior's Charge, and he couldn't. But as you say, he did have a perfect trip that day. He's, from the pace standpoint, he is very unlikely to have one today.
Bravazzo is the number 5, another horse coming out of the Razorback. And I guess Bravazzo fans are hoping that Mr. Lucas is slowly running this horse back into shape. He's had 3 races off of the long layoff. None of them, in my opinion, particularly very good. I guess if you believe in back class, he has that in spades. He's multiple Grade 1 placed in his career. I just wonder where he is from a form standpoint right now, because I just am not enthused by his current form.
No, the back class is just too far back for my taste. That's November 2018, and he hasn't been in the money since then, so I can't use him.
Let's talk about the 6 Snapper Sinclair, and we'll compare trips with the horse that finished right in front of him in the Razorback Bankit. Well, Bankit, again, saved ground, got the seam. Snapper Sinclair was extremely wide, trying to make a move on the turn while losing a lot of ground, and he was still punching on gamely. This is another Asmussen trainee that's been placed in the right spots throughout his career. He's banked over $1 million because of that, and I think the point that you made at the Open is very key. He has tactical speed, and Joel Rosario is probably going to use that tactical speed to his advantage here. He'll get the jump, I would think, on a horse like Bankit and some of these other closers.
Yeah, I think Steve Asmussen probably knows how to read the past performances, and he and Rosario and everybody will see that there are only two speeds in the field. He's inside a Pioneer Spirit. He's got to go. And, he showed in the fifth season, he's a pretty game horse. That was the track was pretty slow that day, so that it was more of a pace than that 48.5 would suggest. And he was in a duel and hooked by another horse, and then Guess Sweet made that late run and caught him. But he showed speed, he showed some grit, and I'm going to take him over Pioneer Spirit.
Yeah, and as for Pioneer Spirit, we'll throw our picks up right now. As for Pioneer Spirit, we know he likes to be forwardly placed. He didn't get the lead in the Razorback, but it's not like he was coming from 100 lengths out of it. He was right up close to the pace. I thought he had his chances turning into the lane. He lost a little bit of ground going into the first turn, yes. This is a horse, obviously. If you look over his overall record, he is capable of popping a triple-digit Beyer speed figure when he gets the trip. And if he is able to secure an easy lead, he's going to be tough. He's 3-1 on the morning line. Snapper Sinclair 7-2 on the morning line. Something tells me, Andy, you're using both to kick off this pick four.
I think that's the way to do it.
Andy likes Snapper Sinclair. Should go off a better price, I believe, than Pioneer Spirit at post time, but we'll use both in the $350,000 Essex Handicap, kicking off a 50-cent pick four on Rebel Saturday. Best of luck.